quorum. See Stewart, Mark, Fred, will you just call the roll? Let's go that way. How about that?
Okay, all right. Mr. Foster,
Here.
Battalion Chief Broadhead. Battalion Chief Broadhead.
Here.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cronteras,
Here.
Mr. Riddle,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Miss Andrus,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Woods.
Here.
All right.
All right.
I'm here.
Okay. Somebody's audio cut out a little bit there. Okay. All right. So as for everyone knows, last week we had a question about the timing of the meeting as it related to delivery of packets. We're actually still trying to get clarification on this, but nonetheless, we've moved the meeting tonight, continued it forward. So as last week, we had the minutes that Fred had circulated. As for those that recall, I believe that the minutes were previously approved last week by voice vote. We were going to basically start the meeting over tonight and go forward from there. So item 3 on the agenda this evening is minutes for approval. Did anyone have any edits, suggestions related to the minutes Fred circulated? Okay, is there anyone that would like to make a motion related to these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, I believe, from Ms. Andrus or Mr. Cronteras on the second. I know Mr. Riddle made the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
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 Great, thank you. Moving right along, communications reports from the chairman and vice chairman. From the chairman, I would like to, I'll circle back related to last week for those that weren't on the call. Councilwoman Andrus has and the staff have brought to the attention the issue of murals and signage in the West Homewood district, and we're working towards a more consistent plan statewide. I don't know if Councilwoman Andrus wants to make any additional comments on that right now from last week.
No progress since last week. We are
No
not
worries.
meeting on Monday, so that will carry over to the 22nd.
Perfect. Okay. I would also like to make an announcement that, as you may have heard on the roll call, Nick Hill is no longer a member of the Planning Commission. Obviously, I think everyone in the city is aware Nick has assumed a larger role with the city's fire department. He is now heading things, and he has been his replacement, Brandon Broadhead, has joined us. I do want to thank Nick very much for the last, I think, 5 years since I've been on the commission. He's been here. He's always done a great job, and I'd like to just thank Nick right now for his time and service to the Planning Commission. And we welcome Brandon. Thanks for joining us, Brandon.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. And then related, Vice Chairman Mark Woods, any comments on subcommittee meetings or any other order of business from you?
Nothing at this time.
Great, thank you. All right, moving right along, old business, case RS 210101. As a reminder, this case was carried over to March 2nd, 2021. This is 508 Tamworth Lane. So for anyone to hear for that case, it has been carried over. It will be heard in March. Moving right along to new business, case RS 210201 214 Edgewood Boulevard. The applicant is Clayton Mobley. The property is owners are Clayton and Rachel Mobley, and it's a request of approval of a resurvey for 5 parcels, 5 lots to 1 parcel, 1 lot to facilitate new residents. And is anyone from representing the Mobleys here or the Mobleys?
Yeah, my name's Joseph Miller. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, Joseph Miller, MTTR Engineers, 2500 South Lake Park, Suite 100, Hoover 35244. I'm representing the Mobleys. They would like to resurvey the 5 existing lots into 1 large lot. It'll be a single family residence. We kind of went over it last week, but I'll be glad to answer any questions the commission might have.
Great. Thanks very much, Joey. So as a reminder for everybody related to planning commission procedure, the applicant will state the nature of the case. We'll open the case up to public comment. We do ask that individuals, especially while we're on Zoom, keep their comments to 2 to 3 minutes, and also not to repeat the same comment several times. The other issue I would like to bring up is with Zoom meetings in particular, crosstalk can be an issue. So I would ask that everyone respect the individual talking and allow them to finish their point before chiming in. It really helps the commission members hear comments being made, and also helps with the audio recording for the minutes afterwards to make sure it's accurate. So with that said, I will open this up to public comment. This is case RS 210201, 214 Edgewood Boulevard. And Brian, if you'll help me with the chat and or hand raising feature, I'm not seeing anything.
Not seeing anything.
All right, we're going to close the public portion. Are there any questions from commission members about this case?
Hello, can you hear me?
Any questions from commission members?
Have none. I was the one that brought this up for vote first, and I've forgotten who seconded it, but I would do that again if that's
Okay.
appropriate this time.
All right. All right, we have a motion from Mr. Riddle and a second from Ms. Andrus related to this resurvey, combining 5 parcels, 5 lots into 1 parcel, 1 lot for 214 Edgewood Boulevard. We have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion from commission members? There being none, Fred, will you call the roll on this?
All right. Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Battalion Chief Broadhead,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle. Yes. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Woods.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Your request passes. You have 180 days to pull your building permit. So-
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, moving right along, case AD 210202, 225 State Farm Parkway. The applicant Shoal Engineering, property owners CYBMN of Homewood, Alabama. This is a request for approval of an amendment to the Wildwood North redevelopment plan to permit the proposed construction of an additional 31-foot add-on to an existing building in Wildwood. Is there anyone here from Shoal or CYBMN related to this case?
Hey, Jeff, Taylor Shoal Engineering. If you can hear me.
Taylor, how are you?
Doing great. How are y'all doing?
Great, thanks for joining us. You may present your case. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Again, name Taylor Shoal, address 1001 22nd Street South, Birmingham, Alabama, 35205.
Okay, and what is the nature of your request? Could you please
So the
describe
request
public
is,
that's on the Zoom?
okay, yeah, the request is for the approval of an amendment to the Wildwood North redevelopment plan to permit construction of a 3,100 square foot addition to an existing retail building at the 225 State Farm Parkway address.
Mhm.
And that's it. I'll open up for questions or comments.
Taylor, would you do me a favor and just orient everyone to where that is on Lakeshore Parkway?
Sure, and I've actually got the map pulled up. So it is north of Lakeshore Parkway, south of State Farm Parkway. It's adjacent to the Starbucks and IHOP off of Lakeshore.
Okay.
Another adjacent, the Moe's Southwest Grill is to our west, if that
Okay.
helps orient the site.
Great. Thank you very much, Taylor. Is there anyone from the public that has a question about AD 210202, the redevelopment plan, amended development plan being requested here? And please raise your hand or use the chat feature to indicate if you have a question or comment. Okay. Brian, I'm not seeing anything. Are you seeing anything?
No, sir.
All right. We're going to close the public portion. Are there any questions from any commission members related to this case?
I'll make a comment. This is James Riddle. I drove by and circled the building, looked at what they had marked off actually on the asphalt as to where the building would come to. And it looked to me like it was within the setbacks and was going to not disturb any of the vegetation between it and the IHOP. So I see no reason not to approve.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. I went there this afternoon and I have the same feeling like James Riddle.
Okay. Yeah, I'll also make a quick comment for anyone that may have a question about this as it relates to parking with the development being added on there. There's sufficient parking in that area for, so just in case there's any question about that for this particular amended development plan. Any other questions or comments from commission members related to this case for the applicant?
I will say thank you for making that building look a heck of a lot better.
Yes.
Okay. Any additional comments? Do we have anyone that would care to make a motion at this time related to this case?
I'll make a motion to approve. AD.
We have-
20
Second,
Okay, we have a motion from James Riddle, Fred, to approve 210202 and a second by Mr. John Contreras.
Huh? Okay, all right, Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Band Chief Broadhead,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras,
yes,
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Andress,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Okay. That passes. Thank you very much, Taylor. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
So much. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Okay, moving right along, case RS 210203, 2713 18th Street South. The applicant is Mike Moran for MAM Investments. It is a request for a resurvey of one parcel, lots 21 and 22, and an adjacent lot to the south, lot 23, and to a single lot. Is Mike Moran or anyone from MAM on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moran. Could you please state your name and address for the record, as well as any additional details related to the nature of your case tonight?
Yes, my name is Mike Moran, 402 Office Park Drive. This is cleaning up. This is the old Wolf Camera building that was actually built ever so slightly across the property line with what is now Valley Hotel. And so we're cleaning that up, and then the 4.97 feet was just to allow for a sidewalk to be constructed along the edge of the Wolf Camera building.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Moran, Ms. Moran. Related to this case, and I'm assuming the next three cases, we had received a letter of protests. I'm trying to pull it up here, and I'm just going to address this. I want to acknowledge that it was received. Please bear with me for a minute while I pull this up. Related to this case tonight and the following cases, as this was the agenda item, we did move ahead with item 3 before item 4 per our agenda. Related to a comment here, I see these now, and we can address these on the commission after the public portion is closed, but there's a question related to spot zoning, the planning commission approval process for this project originally back in August of 2017. And then also related to the use of the zone, the use of the property within the zone I'm summarizing this broadly. And then just in general, other questions, comments, and objections to this that I will go point by point to address once the public portion is closed. That said, I will open the public for additional comments. The letter was received and provided by let's see, the Soho Square LLC group. So with that said, are there any questions or comments from the public related to the resurvey case 210203? Please use your hand, the raise your hand feature or the chat to ask a question about the resurvey.
Yes, we see you, Alton. You can go ahead.
Thank you. This is Alton Parker. My address is 500 North 20th Street, Suite 1200 in Birmingham. The objection to item 3 is that it is premature to consider a resurvey, which would have the effect of deleting it from the previously approved site development plan for the hotel. My specific suggestion is to put item 3 after item 4 and item 5. And if in fact you chose to approve item 4 and item 5, then item 3 would be appropriate to be approved. It is not appropriate to be approved before you have decided what to do about the rezoning of this very parcel, which is the next item to be addressed. That's all I'll say about it now. I'll be happy to address the rest of those later.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments related to this resurvey case?
Robert Eccles.
Well, it's really Joe Eccles, and I'm at 308 English Circle. And I agree with the gentleman that spoke before. I believe that it needs to be requested after the other items are discussed and voted on.
Okay, Jeff Underwood.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I certainly respect Alton and Joe's. And I tell you, I don't profess to fully understand all the history on this, but as someone who's been involved in Homewood for quite some time, I would just ask that I would stress, I guess is a better way of saying it, the importance of honoring existing agreements and being consistent in our decisions as a city. And, to me, those are guiding principles on how an organization should do business. And I would just ask the commission again to be cognizant of existing agreements, willing to honor these and be consistent in applying the ordinances and rules of the city. And with regard to the details, again, there are people on this call who know much more about the details than I do, but I would just ask that we follow those principles of what I consider to be sound governance.
Okay, Jeff, your audio cut out a little bit, but I think the main, and please correct me if I'm wrong, sorry for interrupting the public, but just to summarize Jeff Underwood's comments is to be consistent with our application of the zoning book, and then also to honor and in good faith how we deal with, I guess, development downtown and in our city overall. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, just honoring existing agreements. And again, those are guiding principles to me for governance, and I would just ask that those be kept in mind as you consider your deliberations. So thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff. Anyone else with a question or comment?
Dobbins Group.
Dobbins Group. Please state your name and address for the record. Dobbins
Sure.
Group.
Hi, this is Bill Dobbins, 2914 Linden Avenue. And I'm representing the owner of 2719 18th Place South as well, which is directly behind the Wolf camera. And I want to speak in support of what Mr. Moran is trying to do there. We're very much in support of the Edgars and the development, as well as the further items that we'll discuss later.
All right, thank you very much. Betsy Hunter, I think that's the next person I saw raise their hand. And Betsy, if you would state your name and address for the record once you get unmuted.
Sorry, I lost my unmute button. Betsy McGuire, 313 Lejeune Way, Homewood. First, a question to clear up a confusion that I have. Are you asking us now to speak for or against or in favor or not with the rezoning request that has been put in by the hotel? Or are we making a decision?
This is strictly for a resurvey request of combining 3 lots into 1 lot.
Yes, I very much want to speak in favor of that. I do think that it's a routine thing. And I think that, back to what Jeff said, we've got a development agreement that it seems like we've honored it to the letter.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. McGuire. Is there anyone else with the public that would like to comment on this resurvey?
Roy Morton.
Okay. Roy Morton, if you would state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Roy Morton. I am leasing a piece of property, 2718 19th Place South, from Mr. Greer. I moved my company, Architectural Heritage, which we were downtown for 27 years, to Homewood. And I'm very much in favor of what Mike is doing downtown in Homewood, in that area. In fact, I've moved my business based on that, invested about $125,000 in leasehold improvements, and hope to be bringing about $1.5 million in sales to Homewood, based on what we see, what's happening in that particular area. You know, first time I've been on a Zoom forum, so I apologize if I'm not speaking correctly, but I know several of you guys, we're residents in Homewood for 22 years, but I think what's happening over there, and I think the rezoning, and I agree with Jeff, is that the city needs to honor whatever they promised Mike in the past. And I've actually put my wagon over there. So I'm invested in Homewood, and I live there. All my kids grew up there. My wife's a teacher there. And we love Homewood, and I look forward to seeing what's happening. And I've got several other folks downtown in Birmingham that are looking in that area, trying to move their businesses over there too, to pull off all the traffic that that property is going to create. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Morton. Mr. Morton, I may have missed it. Did you state your address for the record?
Yes, 2718 19th Place South.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else from the public that would like to speak for or against this resurvey?
Hey, I'm not, this is Jeff. I'm not sure I stated my address. I should know the drill by now, but it's 121 Bonita Drive.
Yeah. I actually have your address, Jeff, so I knew I'd written it down. Yeah. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against this case?
There's no new ones. There's some that want to speak a second time, I see, but no new ones I see.
It's simply to respond to the ones that spoke after I did.
Okay, I don't know, Mr. Brent. I mean, I don't know if that's really necessary, other than as it relates to your point earlier about why this case came first. I think that was your ultimate question, and I think probably your comments are more apropos for the following case.
That is probably true. I will say this, that if this is taken to item 3 goes to the end of the agenda and you dispose of the others and then wish to dispose of item 3, the mechanics of what they have presented are okay from a basically a resurvey standpoint. But the question is whether to do it at all. That's all I'll say for now.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak for or against this case here tonight? From the public, Brian, I don't see anything coming up here. Do you?
None other right now. No new ones. No.
All right, I'm going to close
David
the
Siegel.
public. Huh?
I apologize. This is David Siegel. I'm on a cell phone, and so I was trying to figure out how to unmute.
Okay, David, would you please
my
state your
address-
name? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, David Siegel, 222 East Edgewood Drive. I just want to speak in support of what Roy was saying. I own a business in Homewood and a couple of properties in Homewood, and I think the facilitating this development and Mike's need to get this rezoned is a definite positive for the city.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Siegel.
Could I'd like to say something.
I'm sorry, who is this? I can't see.
My name is Nick Pahakis,
Okay.
103 Perry Place, Birmingham.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing business in Homewood since 1994. Jim and Nick's Barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Little Donkey, Hero Donuts, Big Bad Breakfast, and I think what's happening in that development is fantastic for the city. It's without a question, it's a class act, and when you come into Homewood, it's really made a huge difference in the presentation that Mike Moran has done. Street, visual, the hotel, the whole development is just first class.
Okay. All
And
right.
I've seen, we did Little Donkey on Central Avenue, and the redevelopment of that area. Once we opened, we put our business, actually bought that whole center. It had one door, no windows. We redeveloped that, and that whole street really took off from that end down to the park. And I just think this is going to be a big plus for the city.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Patakis.
Yeah, could I get him to give me his address and possibly spell his name? I didn't get that.
Yeah, the last name is P like in Paul, Ihakis. It's actually pronounced Pahakis. It's an easy name.
Okay, and your address?
It's 103 Perry Place, Birmingham.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public like to speak for against this resurvey case? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. So we'll close the public. To address the principal objection about why this stayed at agenda item 1, from my perspective as chairman, it doesn't make sense to vote on or hear a rezone for the entirety of the parcel or the lot that will be there unless the land has been, again, resurveyed into one. That doesn't make sense from my perspective to go out of order that way. I will welcome any comments from other commission members related to that, but from my perspective, it makes more sense to vote on the resurvey and understand the totality of what will be one lot that we're voting on versus moving it behind this one. And that's why I chose to leave it at the third agenda item this evening. And so that's what it was in my opinion. That said, are there any questions or comments from other commission members related to the resurvey?
I agree with your comments, Jeff. I don't see any reason to move it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments related to the resurvey from any commission members? Okay. Do we have a motion from any commission members related to this RS 210203, a resurvey of one parcel, lots 21 and 22, in a northern 4.97 feet portion of lot 23 into a single lot.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second this, Wilson.
Okay, we had a motion from Mr. Riddle, and I think Ms. Andrus possibly beat Mr. Wilson to it.
Beat the buzzer there.
Okay.
Fred, would you call the roll?
Yes. All right, Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Battalion Chief Broadhead,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Woods.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. The request passes. Moving right along to case RZ 210204 2713 18th Street South. The applicant is Mike A. Moran. The owner is MAM Investments. This is a request to rezone from MXD, in Mixed Use District, to C4A Retail Shopping District. Mr. Moran, are you still with us?
I am.
Thank you very much. Would you state the nature of your case and your request? Add any additional to what I just said?
The Wolf Camera building was originally part of the mixed-use zoning of the Valley Hotel. Since that time, the ownership between the two properties is different. So the Wolf Camera building now is a standalone retail, and I think it inappropriate to be mixed use since it's a single retail building. And the zoning I'm seeking, the C4A, is consistent with many of the other retail on 18th Street, including Little Donkey, Rodney Scott, and others. And, you know, it's a bit curious to me because I know there have been some who have opposed mixed use zoning on 18th Street. So you would think that they would be in support of my requesting to rezone from mixed use back to C4A. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moran. We'll open the public up. I'll ask everyone again to state your name and address for the record, as well as your reasons for support or objection of this rezone. And also I would ask again to help avoid crosstalk on the Zoom just for the minutes, and also to help me principally hear what people are saying, to write down the questions or comments appropriately. Are there anyone like to speak for or against this rezone?
Jeff,
Yes.
this is Melanie.
Hey, Melanie.
Hey, I have a question, just a question for Mr. Moran.
Sure. Melanie, would you just state your name?
Yes,
Thank you.
Melanie Gear, I'm at 304 St. Charles Street in Homewood, 35209.
Okay, thanks, Melanie. And if you would state your question, and we'll compile the questions and points and have answer them in order as we move along, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I just have a question as to why exactly it needs to be zoned back. Is it a question of the restaurant cannot maintain itself like it is under mixed use? What does the C4A do for the restaurant that the mixed use did not do? You know, what is the real reason to switch it back at this point? That's my question.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gear. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against this case with the public? I'm scrolling through here trying to see who's who on my Zoom window. Joe Eccles.
Hey, Jeff, I do have a question.
No, sorry, I know you said it earlier, but would you state your name again for
Yes,
the record?
Joe Eccles, 308 English Circle.
Okay.
Mr. Moran, I'm curious of why we are talking about a retail, or why it needs to be rezoned from. I mean, I agree with you. I think I'm totally against mixed use for that street. Yes, I agree with you on that. But I want to question about why as Melanie has, why does it need to be rezoned? And Jeff, does he not answer that question for Melanie now?
No, that's what I was saying earlier. I'd like to get all the questions together and try and address them in order, just from an efficiency standpoint, to avoid back and forth and dragging this on, because we do have other cases tonight. I want Mr. Moran also to have the opportunity to address each question as they've come in.
Oh, so he will address that question
Correct.
for Melanie later. Okay, good.
Correct.
Because
As well as your question, yes, we will ask him to address those questions together. Thank you very much. Okay.
I have a question. I do.
That's okay, Joe. You still have a little time.
I'm sorry. Mr. Moran, I do have a question about in 2017, going back that I went over the minutes again. I was initially not in favor of the hotel, and then Ms. Moran did a great job of presenting it and addressing our concerns and changing things, and then I supported it, and I think it looks great. I'm totally for that. But I do have a question of what happened to the concept, and I don't know if this is just a financial situation or what happened after 2018 when so much real estate changed. What happened to the spa area and the green space that was going to be connected with that was going to be part of the 18th Street redevelopment? What's happened with that? It's just completely changed, and I'm glad, Mr. Moran, you're on here tonight, because I really want you to address that, because I think you have a great thing going, but what happened with the finished product that you spoke to the city about, the green space and the sidewalks and the parking, and what has happened with that? That's my question. I want to know.
All right, thanks, Ms. Eccles. I saw the next hand up was the Dobbins Group on my screen.
Hi, this is Bill Dobbins again, 2914 Linden Avenue. And again, I represent the owner of 2719 18th Place South, directly behind the building that we're talking about. I know many of you, and obviously we love being in Homewood. I own multiple properties in the downtown Homewood area. And I think what Mike's trying to do here is really complimentary and just a wonderful addition to what Homewood is. And it's very consistent with what Homewood has been and hopefully will continue to be. I think the hotel is a wonderful addition. I know that I'm looking forward to not only our employees that are based here in Homewood, visiting the restaurants and hotels that Mike is putting together, but those that are coming in from out of town and now having a great entrance into downtown Homewood, which frankly, we have not had previously when it was closed businesses in an auto parts store. Not that those aren't, an auto parts store isn't a really great and needed use in a city, but right in the middle of downtown, it was not consistent with what we were trying to do. That said, a restaurant, which is what we're talking about here, is very consistent with the uses in the area. It's a wonderful addition to the area. In real estate development, oftentimes, have you seen it all up and down 18th Street where businesses come and go? I don't really think the fact that Mike at one time wanted to do a spa is really relevant because I think the original use of all of the businesses on 18th Street has changed over time. I think the restaurant is really, really consistent. I think the C4 zoning is consistent with the uses around. I do not think it is spot zoning at all. And then as far as it being mixed use, it's not mixed use, it's a single use here. So I understand why Mike is trying to change it to the C4, which again, is what the property was, and it's what many of the properties on 18th are. Restaurant is a great use for here. So I'm speaking in support of what Mike is trying to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Dobbins. Next hand up, I think, is Chris Underwood.
Well, what happened to the green space?
Okay. Would you state your name and address for the record, just so we have it?
Chris Underwood,
Mm-hmm.
3128 Lancaster Court.
3128 Lancaster. Thank you much, Ms. Underwood. So that's the second question on green space. I'll make sure to pose that to Mr. Moran shortly. Brian, who's up next? Brian, do you see anyone? Betsy McGuire, I see your hands up. Oh, sorry, Alton, you'll go next.
Well, I mean, obviously pending Mr. Moran talking more, which I look forward to hearing, it is hard, in my opinion, rezoning this to the C4A is a win-win because it does put the mixed use out of the discussion, which I think allows us to go forward clearly. It also puts it in line, as he said, with so many other of the other structures on 18th. So I support it pending anything he might say because it is a win-win, in my opinion.
All right, Ms. McGuire, would you just state your address again for the record? I know you stated earlier, but.
Sorry, 313 Lejeune Way.
Thank you so much. Okay, Alton, yep, there you are.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is, of course, the heart of our objections. And let me say first, I agree with everybody who has said they support the hotel. Our clients support the hotel, think it's great for Homewood. Our objections are almost exclusively about parking and the fact that Homewood has failed to enforce its parking requirements as this has gone through and been developed. The long-range plan for the city, which is the guiding principle, calls for this to be MXD. It is patently obvious that the reason for the rezoning request is to take it out of MXD, back zoning to what it used to be, which has the effect of taking it out of the site plan for the hotel, which is where all of this began. I agree with what Jeff Underwood said. Jeff said, we have to honor our existing things and we have to be consistent, our existing agreements. And there have been references to the agreements. The city council approved a very specific site development plan in 2017. It was on September 18th, 2017 to be exact. And on there were a number of parking spaces required by the city. And those parking spaces to support the uses that the hotel had applied for were on there. Now we have some problems with the way those were presented, but in general terms, they were inadequate for what he has built in terms of retail and restaurants and certainly the meeting space. The city was not told about any of those developments, and they never approved those as part of the site development plan and therefore never had enough parking required. Now, if you look at what was actually done, the reason that has been presented for this is that there was, it's the wrong site development plan is why you need to do this. I can tell you that there is no approved site development plan out of the Planning Commission or the City Council that has anything on it other than that the old Wolf Camera was to be a spa and operated as part of the hotel. In fact, the minutes of both the Planning Commission and the City Council hearing on this, Mr. Moran committed to make it a spa. He committed to make it green space if the spaces in front of it were eliminated by the improvements to 18th Street, and said he would make it a green space. And you can go and look at those minutes, and you can look at the video, which I would request you to do, at 4 minutes and 30 seconds into his presentation. He shows the site plan that he now says was the wrong, it didn't have that notation on it. It shows it to be a spa. It shows the green space on it, and it is exactly the same site plan that was presented to the council and approved by the council and previously approved by the planning commission. Now, the problem is, here's the
Alton,
problem.
I do want to allow other folks to have an opportunity, and I've actually given you about 4 minutes here. So if you could try and wrap up as best you can. We also have your letter, which I think addresses a lot of the points you're raising, and I will make sure to go over that as well. I do want to give the rest of the public a chance to speak. Yeah.
I want it clearly understood that I've got a lot of friends on this call.
Yeah.
We're not opposed to the hotel. It is the lack of parking for everything and the major changes to the site plan that were never approved. And I asked the question, where are the Edgar's people going to park?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Alton. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against this case from the public? Well, we've had some nice comments thus far, both for and against, to address. And then also we have the letter that was received, I guess from you, Alton, related to your overall concerns.
From my client, yes.
From your client, yeah. Mm-hmm. Robbie Morton. Sorry. I saw you, Joe. I'll come back to you again.
Okay. That's great.
You keep
No
it,
problem.
keep it about.
It's Roy.
Oh, Roy, sorry. Roy
Yeah,
B.
that's
Morton.
fine. No problem. 2718 19th Place South,
Mm-hmm.
Homewood, leasing space from Mr. Ed Greer. We moved our business there, as I spoke earlier. I kind of have a question. I'm in favor for the restaurants because they bring a lot of traffic. I'm not sure about how all the parking was because I don't have all that information in front of me of what was said in the past. I guess I'm just confused. Are you guys voting on whether to go to a C4 zoning, or are we talking about parking or green space?
Yeah, so just to be clear, some of the questions are related to the site development plan overall. The purpose of the case tonight is a rezone from mixed use to C4A, which is retail service district, or retail service zoning from a mixed use district.
Right.
Yep, that is the purpose. That
I
is
understand
correct.
that. And so if you're a mixed use, you can still have retail and you can build above, you can do two different things. Is that what you're saying? Or I'm confused right here. Why we're talking about what was said in the past and what we're voting for right now, what you guys are voting for.
Yeah, so I guess to part of your point, and I'll address this now, and then I'll go to Ms. Eccles. Again, the focus of the case is the rezone. And I can give general comments related to mixed use and the uses allowed under that, which again, that's fine from our zoning book. I will let Mr. Moran, and then I'll make some broader comments related to the process to address Alton's comments.
Yeah.
earlier
May I
as well.
make one final comment to answer?
Again,
Sure.
so Mr. Morton, Alton, hold on 1 second, please. And then I guess overall your question, Mr. Morton, if I'm understanding, is why are we re-debating what was decided in 2017? Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then also, growing up when I was younger, I mean, listen, I think in 68, 69, Sykes Shoes, and where the other little restaurant, I mean, it was a hard time parking back then. And I remember coming over to Homewood in those days, and my grandfather built them on, the Bridges family built on Roseland. So very familiar with Homewood and parking. But anyway, I'll let it go. Thank you for letting me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morton. Ms. Eccles, just wrap up your comments from earlier, Ms. Eccles.
Well, I just want to reiterate what I said, and I agree with Betsy, is that I am definitely want to get rid of mixed use on 18th Street. That I'm totally, but I do want, I would like for Mr. Moran to address what has happened with the original site plan with the green space, which has been one of the major concerns of everybody in Homewood. I mean, that was one of the number one things on the surveys. And I would like for him to address it. I think the hotel's great. I appreciate what he's doing, but I don't want to lose the fact that what was presented and approved in 2017 did include green space, but I do agree with it being just retail or changing the rezoning.
All right, thank you,
And I
Ms.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Alton, I'll give you 15 seconds to wrap up before.
Answering the questions about why we're doing this, the C4 zoning, C4A zoning will not require any parking for these restaurants. And they otherwise under the MXD and should have been, if it had been known, it would have had 100 spaces that would have been required. This is the problem we've got with the site plan.
All right, thank you very much, Alton. Anyone else would like to speak for or against this case before closing the public portion? Didn't see anyone before Ms. Eccles and Alton spoke a second ago. Brian, do you see anything?
I have not seen any others. No, not any new ones.
All right. Sorry, folks, it's Hollywood Squares here, and I try to scroll through and see
yeah,
cards flipping up or not. So it doesn't look like it. So we're going to close the portion of the public portion. And before we go to the planning commission portion, I'm going to give Ms. Moran an opportunity to address some of the comments related to the rezone. There was a comment from Ms. Gear, and I think Ms. Eccles seconded about the why move forward from mixed use to C4A. And I don't know if Mike wants to address that now.
I certainly will, Jeff.
Thank you so much.
If I have the term correctly, since the two properties, that being the hotel and the old Wolf Camera building, have been separated, and the old Wolf Camera by its single use cannot be a mixed use, I believe it would become what is called, or at least I've heard it called, a legal non-conforming development. And having a legal non-conforming is typically something that planning commissions and municipalities want to avoid because of complications in the future. So again, as I said, with the opposition to mixed use, I would have thought this would have been an easy thing to go from mixed use back to C4A. For the comment about the spa and everything, that is absolutely correct. In 2017, I was proposing a spa in that location, and it did show green space where formerly the Wolf Camera parking was located. The city of Homewood changed their position, and in 2018, we being the city of Homewood and me, we signed a development agreement which is a public document available to anybody who wants it, in which the city of Homewood financially incentivized me to develop retail that would be revenue producing on 18th Street. They discouraged the spa. And so therefore, I pivoted per the terms of our signed development agreement and began to focus on developing retail on 18th Street. I have not only the Wolf Camera building, but I also have the lot just to the north of Da Vinci's Pizza, on which is proposed to be the second Birmingham location of Rodney Scott's Barbecue and the relocation of Nick Pahakis's Little Donkey, because he's losing the parking on Central Avenue. So again, in doing that, I feel like I've been in complete compliance with the signed development agreement between myself and the city of Homewood. As far as green space, Betsy was an early advocate of the hotel and the other development because of my commitment on the green space. I have tried to do the landscaping to accomplish that in front of the hotel. I think it can be noticed that the trees that I planted in front of the hotel are a much greater caliber than are the trees that the city's planting in the median and everything. So I'm trying to beef up the landscaping. To the point about Wolf Camera no longer being a spa and being a potential or being a retail venue, all of the retail venues that I'm developing, that Wolf Camera, Rodney Scott, Little Donkey, all have outdoor dining and will have the landscape that goes typically with outdoor dining. I'm very sensitive to the fact, I know there's a greening movement in Homewood, and I agree with it. But it's obviously not easy. There's not much distance between the sidewalk that has been installed by the city and the property line at the Valley Hotel. And I think if you look at the scale of the landscaping that I'm installing, you'll see that I'm trying my best to make it very attractive. One, I think it's the right thing to do. Two, it's the smart thing to do. The better my properties look, the better they will do. So our interests actually run parallel. I'm trying to think if there's anything else anybody has raised that I have not touched upon. Oh, the parking, of course, the parking. One thing I'm not sure some people on this call understand is that I have already received the certificate of occupancy for the Valley Hotel. We will be hosting our first guest next Tuesday. So in achieving, and it was made very clear to me by the city that I would not receive the certificate of occupancy unless I had the number of parking spaces required of me by the development plan. I had a few more than that, so I received my certificate of occupancy. In asking that Wolf Camera be rezoned, I'm not proposing that the number of parking spaces I was required to have is reduced. The parking remains the same. I'm just asking that instead of Wolf Camera being part of a mixed use for which it's no longer part of the same ownership, that it be rezoned C4A, as is Rodney Scott and Little Donkey and most of the other. I mean, the current zoning in Homewood requires no parking for first floor retail that faces either 18th Street or 29th Avenue. So I'm not asking for any zoning that's not prevalent up and down the street. And I'm not proposing to reduce the number of parking spaces. I'm just trying to clean up what I think would be a legal non-conforming zoning to facilitate it. It makes it a little harder to finance if you're trying to finance a building that is legally non-conforming. If it burns down, you arguably can't rebuild it because it's non-conforming. So therefore, that is the basis of my request.
Okay. Mr. Moran, I'm looking through here. I will make a comment, and this sort of goes to the comment you just made that was raised in the protest that provided by Soho Square LLC related to this to being spot zoning. As Mr. Moran noted, and as what I've noted as well, up and down 18th Street, C4A is the predominant zoning. I don't, as well as 29th Avenue, as he commented on. Therefore, I don't see how this could be considered spot zoning, as the use of the proposed lot building is entirely consistent with the rest of 18th Street, at least all the way south to Oxmoor and then up to Rosedale. I think is very consistent with C4A, and that's what's there now. That's the predominant zoning classification. Regarding the Next comment here, I'm just trying to make sure I address anything that we've missed here. From a planning commission perspective, there was a comment made about the approved development plan by the planning commission. And I have a copy of a 1707 final development plan related to a notation about the use of the property. That is not on the copy that I had and that we voted on. And whatever was transmitted, you know, I can't comment on that, but I have what was done in 1707-02. So I don't think that we're being inconsistent as far as the use and the changing of the spa to a restaurant or retail service at the request of the city council after the mixed use development was approved. You know, I just don't see that notation on here that there was a proffer to limit its use. You know, moreover, I don't think that that would be consistent with the purpose of mixed use zoning to limit the use. That's really what mixed use is for, is to allow a variety of uses above and beyond what is allowed in C4, C4A. So again, I don't see that here on my copy from the Planning Commission. And so just to address that comment there. Let me see if there's anything else here. Ms. Moran commented that the change here was at the request of the council. Again, from a Planning Commission standpoint, we're not involved with that. So before us is really, does the rezone of this lot meet the definition and is consistent with the properties around it, as well as the use for the property. And I'll take any questions, comments from other members of the Planning Commission this evening. Related to this is again, for the rezone.
This is John Corantiras, Mr. Chairman. I have a
John.
question. Can you explain to me the reason of the change, number one, and number two, what would be the future usage of the 4A versus if it was mixed use?
Okay, so on the first question, John, just so I'm clear, what change are you asking about? The change from
From mixed use, which allowed plenty of parking, versus the 4A that does not allow any parking.
So it doesn't. There's no parking requirement with C4A. I think that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I said.
There's no parking requirement, but there's no parking requirement for any of the off-street parking requirement. I'm going to specify that. The intent of C4A was to develop a sort of a pedestrian-friendly corridor. That was the idea behind it when it was adopted. And that's what you see along 18th Street, and what several of us argued for supporting and maintaining a little over a year ago, when there was a proposal to go to mixed use in all of downtown. Myself, I've been a longtime advocate for bringing down the scale of the development in our downtown to maintain its character. So from that standpoint, John, I think the point of what I'm getting at is none of our C4A properties have an off-street parking requirement. And this lot essentially is consistent, and I'm not sure what it could be used for other than C4A. Moreover, with C4A, to some of the comments brought up by the public tonight, in opposition to mixed use, there is a height requirement now imposed of 35 feet. If it goes above 35 feet for any reason, then parking requirements do kick in, and off-street parking would be required. And in my opinion, this is essentially a down zone by the applicant to this. Again, that is not inconsistent with the other properties around it. And I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, well, basically that's my question. My next question is, there is absolutely no question about the beauty of the Curio Hotel, which I have stay in a Curio Hotel in Rome. But the question that I have, and I'm glad that Mr. Pahakis is also online tonight with the system, that in an area of less than 4.5 blocks, after all the restaurants in the hotel, after the Little Donkey and the barbecue place, after the restaurant that is going to be at the bakery, they're going to be over 22 restaurants. And I have been in the restaurant business for over almost 30 years. And it just, it's just, you know, just use a word, it's just crazy how these old people are going to survive with 20 restaurants in that small of a vicinity. But, you know, the hotel, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a big plus for the city of Homewood. You know, nothing around it, not even the one in Montebrooke can compete with what Mr. Moran has made. But there is some things that, even though there is no way that these things can be turned down, that eventually somebody, how many, 1, 2, 3, 4 people, they will suffer in having over 20 restaurants in a 4-block area. And Mr. Pahakis has been in the restaurant business probably longer than I have. And I invite him to make a comment specifically about this particular issue.
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Patakis, if you could keep it brief as we have closed the public. I do appreciate Mr. Cronteris's comment though to you directly, so I'll allow you to address this.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. You know, the demographics and where we pull from the clientele that comes into our restaurants in Homewood is pretty much concentrated in that vicinity. But this development is going to bring a much bigger clientele. It's just going to be a broader clientele. It's going to pull from much different areas. And I think that there's enough business in that area for all of the restaurants. But one thing, they all got to do a good job. And that development is so beautiful, and it's got such class that it's going to draw people into that area. And I think that people are going to love it. And I've been doing business in Homewood for 26 years, been in the restaurant business for 45 years, and Homewood's always been great for restaurants. I don't think that there's ever going to be too many. I think as long as everybody does a good job, and because there's such a difference in what people are offering.
All right, thank you very much, Nick.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pahakis.
Is the public comment period still going on? Are we?
No, Mr. Cronteris had a very specific question to a member related to that, so I allowed it. But
Can I say something related to parking?
No, ma'am, I'm not going to open that back up right now unless there's a specific question from a council or commission member related to parking. I do think that the city is aware of that. I think some comments that have been made tonight, I think everyone is well aware of it. That again, though, to reiterate for C4A, which is what this request is for, is this request in keeping with the zoning book and the properties and uses around it for parking. That's what we need to be considering here. And the purpose of C4A again was to create a pedestrian friendly corridor in downtown and encourage, you know, again, that. And if the question is about C4A and what we want in our zoning book, that's a different discussion, which I'm more than happy to have at any time with anyone about. Any other questions from commission members specific to the rezone? Okay. I don't see anything. Anybody raising their hand? No. Okay. Brian, did I miss anything? Just to make sure. I don't think so. All right, if there's no further discussion on the rezone request 210204 from other commission members, I'll take a motion at this time.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion and from Mr. Riddle, a second from Ms. Andrus. I believe the motion is to approve 210204. Fred, do you want to call the roll on that? We may have lost Fred.
I'm sorry. No, okay, I'm back. All right, Mr. Foster.
Fred, I hope you weren't trying to eat since I haven't eaten yet, since just pointing that out.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. All right, Ms. Foster. All right, Battalion Chief Broadhead.
Yes.
Mr. Contreras.
No.
Mr. Riddle.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Andrus.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Woods.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving right along. This is an amended development plan case, 80210205 for the Curio Valley Hotel. The applicant is Mike Moran. He's very popular tonight on the agenda. This is related to amendments for signage designs and a request from this. Before we begin on this, I have a point I would like to make on this, and I've made this to staff, Wyatt and Vicky, and I understand their reasoning behind this to some degree. Normally, when we consider amended development plans, it's related to a change in the size of a structure, a moving of a structure, of an addition, of a use request, etc. This is related to signage on the hotel. Frankly, I'm not sure this should be a planning commission case. We did talk about it. I do understand Vicky's point on this is that because the signs were listed on the plan that we voted on and approved in 2017, she felt that is a matter of transparency that this come back before us to look at. I do understand that to a degree. So that's why it's on the agenda tonight. If anyone had any questions, if you read the zoning book, it specifically defines changes of greater than 10% or 10 feet. And so that's why this question has come up. And I don't know if Vicky or Wyatt like to comment any further on this before we let Mr. Moran make his request. All right, Mike, you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Jeff. I've certainly been frequent. I'm not so sure how popular, but after that last one, this ought to be a piece of cake. The hotel and restaurant were approved for what I call 4 larger signs. 2 for the hotel, 2 for the restaurant. What I am requesting is really 2-pronged. One is that instead of 2 for the hotel and 2 for the restaurant, it is 3 for the hotel and 1 for the restaurant. And the reason is that the signage that was not requested originally for the hotel would be on the north-facing elevation. So if one is coming down 18th Street from the north, from Vulcan, we are requesting a sign at the top of the hotel that has the Valley Hotel and logo. By the way, the other 2 Valley Hotel signs are themselves also at the top of the restaurant. One facing, I guess it would be west. If people are traveling on Central Avenue, they would have the sign up at the top of the hotel. And the other would be if people are traveling north on 18th Street, it would be again at the top of the hotel. So in summary, no additional, quote, large signs, just a reallocation between the hotel and the restaurant. The only signage that we're asking as an addition is, I think, about a 3x3 sign, which is the logo of the Ironwood Restaurant, which is the name of the restaurant being in the first floor of the Valley Hotel. And that sign would be to the right toward to the restaurant and would be recessed, if you will. The front door is under the overhang of the hotel. So this sign would be recessed from the far face of the hotel and would be, I think, about 3x3, which is the mark or the logo of the hotel. And that's the only, to me, that's the only addition we're asking for. Other than that, we're asking for a reallocation of the larger signage.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moran. I'll open this up to the public for additional comment for or against the request to as Mr. Moran described, reallocate his signage along the north wall, west wall, et cetera, as well as the lower restaurant wall for the addition of a logo under a sign, looks like. Yeah. Any comment? Joe, are you still there? Yep, there you go. You're muted.
Sorry, Jeff, I had to
That's okay.
unmute. Joe Eccles, 308 English Circle. Ms. Moran, I agree. I have no problem with that, but I want to take my opportunity with this public comment section is to comment on what you said about that you and the city, they encouraged you to do retail. And I found that very interesting because it was never presented to the public. There was never any public comments. There was never anything that was ever, I'm pretty aware of what's going on and that the city council made some agreement with you and encouraged you to do this and not to have a spot. Really kind of concerns me because I don't know where that comes from. And I'm only taking my public comments because I agree with everything about the signage, but how did the city or the city council decide that they were going to ask you to change your plans when there's no comments from the public, no public hearing, nothing? And I don't know how everybody else feels about this, but to me, it's concerning and it's confusing and it's absolutely beyond what I would have ever even thought. And I appreciate you saying that because when those site plans were approved, I was in total agreement. And I think you've done a great job and I really respect you, Mr. Moran. But this with the city, that the city council comes to you and convinces you to do something that they want to do without any public hearing or anything that is concerning to me. So I wanted to take my public comments to address that. Have no problem with the signage. I know everything you do is first class and I agree.
Thank you, Joe. And I'll make note of that. If Mr. Moran would like to address that shortly, he can. And if not, I have some articles, documents I can forward over to you just to give you a little background, and then obviously Councilor Andrews.
Mr. Chairman,
hold on, John. Just we're in the public, so let's let Alton go real quick first before, just so I know, yeah, because it's after 7, and I want to make sure we give the public enough time to comment. Still do, yeah. Oh, and Alton, make sure you state your name and address again if you don't mind. For the record.
Parker, 500 North 20th Street, Suite 1200, Birmingham.
Okay.
I've done a very poor job of articulating the problem. The problem is that the city council approved a site development plan that had certain parking requirements in it. They have not been met. They're not being met. And there's been nobody to come back, not Mr. Moran, the hotel, to modify the site plan to say what they actually are doing and to match that up with parking requirements that would be under the city ordinance. I haven't been able to explain that very well.
Now, Alton, I do appreciate your comment on that, and I gave Joe a little leeway on her comments about the process. So if you would, again, the current case is related to signage. So if you have comments on that, I would appreciate those first, and then.
Yes, I do have a comment.
Okay.
The specific thing they presented to the city is a crock. They took an old site plan that was not approved by the planning commission, put a big X on it and said, we want to change the signs. This is about the site plan. It's not about the signs. Listen, they're going to do a good job with the signs. I have no objection to the signs. I object to their amendment to the site plan, which is the wrong site plan, which needs to be amended anyway to take care of the parking. That's the problem. And until somebody at the city understands that, you think you got a mess on parking now? Think Mr. Pahakas, when he finds out that 41 of those spaces in front of his place are going to have to come off the site plan because they were dedicated to the hotel, which they're not. They should be by the zoning ordinance. That is the problem. It's the site plan, no parking, not the signs.
I appreciate your comments on that. I do. And but I also want to make sure we stay focused on the case at hand related to the signage request that's on the development plan I'm looking at from the planning commission standpoint from 2017 that does actually reference the signs Mr. Moran stated in his original. So are there any public questions related to the signage and the request to amend the development plan for the signs here?
One last comment.
Oh, okay. Is it related to signs, Alton? Yeah, thanks. All right. Are there any other comments on signage? I want to stay focused on signage related to the case at hand. That's the case at hand is signs. I'm not trying to be difficult. I apologize if I'm coming across that way, but I do want to stay focused on the request for the signage. Okay. No further public comment. All right, we'll close the public portion. Are there any questions? John, I think you had a question.
He's muted.
John, you're muted. John, you're muted. John, can you hear me? You're still muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was muted. I'm sorry. I said, I don't know if I'm allowed to make a comment in regards to Ms. Eccles' statement or not.
Yeah, go right ahead, John.
Okay. Well, and the question I have for Mr. Moran is when this decision was made to change the spa into a retail space, and you mentioned, or somebody mentioned that the city council was aware of it and approved it. If you can make a comment, Mr. Moran or Ms. Andres, I understand in my record checking that you were a member of the city council in 2017. If you can address that issue, why it was not a public hearing, how it was changed just between the city council and Mr. Moran without anybody else knowing anything about it.
Yeah, John, I will request, Jennifer, before you answer that, I appreciate the question. I really do. And I definitely think it's worthy of discussion.
By the way, just for the record, that is absolutely was in the public domain, absolutely happened at a council meeting and reported on by the Homewood Star.
Yeah. Thank you. But again, I'm not trying to, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody, by the way, for how professional, cordial, and respectful we have been to each other on comments thus far tonight. And I want to keep it that way. So again, I want to reorient back to the sign. And then, John, I do agree with your question. I think we need to, I'm happy to help coordinate any meeting to get that answered. But I do want to focus again back on the request for the sign amendment development plan on the sign. So just if we could, we've closed the public portion. Are there any commission members that have questions related to that?
Short of a motion, I have none.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions on that or comments related to the case right now? Okay, all right. Do we have a motion related to this case from any commission member?
Jeff, Vicky's got her hand raised.
Oh, so thank you, Jennifer. Vicky, did you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I just wanted to speak to the site plan that was in this particular application. It was just for reference purposes. All that you really needed to see was what was previously approved versus what is requested tonight. The rest of it really had nothing to do with anything other than reference.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Ms. Smith. Angie, do you now have a question or comment?
I think Mr. P wants to ask a question.
Okay, I didn't see him. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wyatt. Are you still there?
Yes, no, I wasn't, I didn't need to ask anything. Vicky was trying to get through and having difficulty.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for how cordial we've kept this thus far. And I just want to make sure we stay focused on the agenda and the case at hand here as it relates to the request for the development plan and the sign request by Ms. Moran. Are there any other questions from any council or commission members related to this?
I move to approve.
We have a motion from Councilor Andrus.
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Riddle. Fred, would you call the roll unless there's any other comment? There being none, call the roll.
All right. Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Battalion Chief Broadhead,
Yes.
Mr. Cronteras.
Yes.
I'm sorry, say it again, please. Yes.
He said yes.
Yes, okay.
I believe, John, that was what you could if you don't throw a thumbs up into the camera.
Say that again. I can, I can barely hear you.
Your audio cut out. Did you say yes, John?
Yeah, I said yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Continuing. Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Woods.
Yes.
All right. Your request for the signage passes. Moving right along. This is PP 210206 1591 Forest Ridge Road. The applicant is Chris Williams, Carlisle Creek Construction for the owner Legacy Builders Group. It is a request for approval of a preliminary plat for the proposed development of a 7-lot subdivision. I will make a comment as chair that this has actually been seen and heard by the Planning Commission previously, I believe in 2018. And so I'll allow the applicant to state their case now.
Yes, sir. My name is Chris Williams, Carlisle Creek Construction, 130 Keeneland Green, Pelham, Alabama. And we're asking for a approval of the preliminary plat for the development, proposed development for a private subdivision at the end of Forest Ridge Road.
All right, thank you very much. We will now open up the questions to the public related to this case. Is there anyone here who would like to speak about 1591 Forest Ridge Road? For or against from the public? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. Brian, you see anybody?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to close the public and open this back up to the commission members for questions of the applicant. I know Nick actually is still here with us as the fire chief. Nick, do you want to make a comment on this for the record again as it relates to this, even though we previously have seen it?
Yes, this was previously a development by Mr. Chambers, and he had agreed to sprinkle that and widen the road to 18 foot for fire department access. And so far, he's done everything we've asked him to do. There was some delay from Birmingham Waterworks due to COVID, but he since, got that squared away and moving forward. So there's no reason to not go forward with something we already agreed to. It's just been a delay because of COVID mostly.
Yep. Okay. All right. This looks to be exactly the same thing. So from my read of this, obviously you've moved ahead a little bit, but as far as what I'm looking at on the site plan, this seems to be the same thing. I don't know if there's any comments or questions from commission members related to this. Okay, do we have anyone that'd like to make a motion if there are no questions?
Move to approve. So move to previous question and approve Ms. Wilson.
We have a motion from Mr. Wilson to approve 210206. Do we have a second from anyone? James Riddle, I believe, seconded, Fred.
Okay,
Great.
all right. Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Battalion Chief Broadhead. Mr. Broadhead?
Yes.
Yes? All right.
Yes. That was a
Mr.
yes.
Cronteras?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Cronteras?
He's muted.
All right, I'll come back. Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Andrus,
Yes.
Mr. Woods. Mr. Woods.
Mark, you just muted yourself. I don't know if you.
I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. Sorry. That's probably a good thing for everybody.
Coming back to Mr. Cronteras.
Yeah, Fred, yes for me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, your request has been approved again. You've already pulled your building permit, I think, already. So
Yes, thank you very much.
no issues on that. All right, again, I'm moving right along. Item 7, presentations and communications to the board that's on the agenda in front of me. I don't believe there are any presentations from staff or communications to us from anyone. Okay, not seeing any. I just, again, before we move to a motion to adjourn, I want to do, again, thank everybody. Sorry, was someone saying something? Okay, I did want to thank everybody again for their time tonight. I know it's late and 7:35, I think. So again, thank you, everyone. And again, I'd also like to thank all the commission members and the public that's still with us for a very respectful meeting overall. I realize some of the questions, comments are sometimes controversial and can get a little heated. So I do appreciate that tonight, and also everyone respecting each other's time limits and allowing everyone to have an opportunity to speak that wanted it. So again, thank you all very, very much tonight. Thank you to the commission members for the service to the city.
Good night.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion from John and a second from Mr. Wilson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, there being none, meeting's adjourned.